Good evening, everyone. I hope you're fastened in tight, because tonight is going to be a bumpy one. We're headed to Sebring International Raceway for the next round of the Precision Racing League Indy Pro 2000 Series, right here on Global Sim Racing Channel. My name, as always, is Ryan Jones. Glad to have Oshin Parker alongside of me, and Joe Peak behind the scenes, using the great cameras curated by the legendary Dougie Beard. And, well, let's strap in and hold on, because we're going to go down and take a closer look at the track with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course.
It may be a tricky track, but it is one of Ossian's favourites, so Ozzy, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this facility?
Yes, Sebring, Florida, United States. Track that was built on an old military airport, 17 turns, 3.7 miles, about 6 kilometers on the dot. And, well, it's fast, it's very, very bumpy. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally love it. And it is one of the trickiest circuits on the calendar because you have to set your car just right for it. You have to know all the corners beforehand. You can't afford to make a single mistake. And hey, it's got one of the most, I would say, the most difficult corner in America, which is the Sunset Bend. That last corner, double apex right-hander, very fast in, very slow out. It's what we would call tightening in rally terms. And, well, overall, it's an excellent place. And hey, Ryan, not all bad memories here from Aussies. After all, a couple of years ago, Jack Brabham won the World Championship here.
Indeed he did, and I suppose it's typical that a Finn would make a reference to rally on a road course even nonetheless. But as always, you're seeing everything today thanks to SIMMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and, of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at SIMMSA.net. And if you want a beautiful ad read just like that, well, you can make it happen and you can get involved with the global sim racing channel. With over 1 million impressions each month, it's a great opportunity to get your brand seen by a wide, diverse audience. Head to the link in the description to find out more about that. And then, now, let's have a look at our championship. This is round number 5, so we're 4 rounds in. And this is how the drivers' standings look. Greg Seitz leads after winning last time out. He's got a 13-point margin over Declan Eady. Nicholas Delt back there. The Mark Mcdonald and Liam Quinn, 34 and 35 points adrift. What about the team standings, Ozzy?
Well, team standings, they still look like two teams that have been on top all season. They are still there, Rust Racing Steel and Rust Racing Iron, the sister teams at top 2, places 1 and 2, Steel leading, Iron in the second place. Team Talent 3 wide in third place, 34-point deposit over the lead, and then RSR Esport in fourth place, and Lavoie Motorsports rounding out your top 5 in the team standings. So it's quite tight from second place out. Rust Racing Steel looks like they have things pretty well under control, but hey, never say never. Greg Seitz has been good, but how about after last week, Ryan? How about after last week with what happened between Greg and what happened between him and Josh Chin? It could be a little bit of a bumper affair for them tonight.
Yeah, Chin definitely got on the back foot a few times in that race, but he recovered well, ended up clawing his way back to second after a couple of spins through no fault of his own, down at the same corner, in fact. The final chicane at Montreal. Race details then. What has the drivers got to navigate today? And a few bonus points on offer as always as well.
Yeah, indeed. Round 5 of 10. We are coming soon to a halfway point in this season after this one. We got a 45-minute race with open setups. Drivers getting to decide what to do with their setups. And of course, they're going to have pit stops as well. And drive-through at 11 incident points. Disqualification at 20 incident points. Bonus points for the pole position, the fastest lap, and having 3 incidents or less. And incident points, well, 11 incident points drive-through. That could be a little bit of a challenge for these drivers here at Sebring.
Well, Sebring's a challenge in itself, and this format keeps things very close, which is going to bring the field under a lot of pressure. Just under 10 minutes left to go here in qualifying, so let's cast our eyes to the leaderboard as Greg Seitz does a blistering lap, and Joshua Chin immediately cuts the gap back down to 0.2 of a second. But those two, they're the class of the field right now. 0.7 of a second away is David Soror in third, and Lewis in fourth.
Yeah, it's gonna be an almighty tussle between those two guys, and it's an interesting point if we could point the cameras back to Greg Seitz, and you can see behind him he's got his teammate Michelin Green right there, and see that white and lavender car right behind? That's Josh Chin. So he's following exactly to the T what the Rust Racing guys are doing, and he's trying to catch some of that sweet draft for the long straights at Sebring.
Yeah, I wonder. How much of a help the draft may be. There's not many high-speed corners here, which means, well, that's probably one of the only ones where dirty air could hurt you. Which means if you're behind someone, say 7/10 of a second, half a second, you might not get held up too much through the middle portions of the lap where you're going through all the slow lefts and rights. And then when you get to the straights, you'll find a big advantage, courtesy of the slipstream. So this may be one of the places where you do want to go hunting for a tow, because the high-speed tracks, well, yes, you get a tow down the straights, but you get the dirty air as well, and through the corners, it pretty much costs yourself all that you gain in the straight bits.
Yeah, and here at Sebring, the places where you feel the draft or the dirty air at most are going to be actually, ironically, right before the back straight, the Le Mans corner, turn number 16. That's the turn where everybody will go wide. There is a wide curb there, and people usually take it all the way to the limit. And that's also the kind of corner where it hurts, because I've never driven a car that doesn't feel like it oversteers there. It always understeers just a little bit due to the nature of that corner and the nature you have to set your car up for in here, as we watch Liam Gwynn actually on the Sunset Bend. Again, this very difficult corner. And he is a brave man. He's showing up to this series as one of the UK representatives. And it's 2 a.m. right now in the UK, so he's certainly a bit of a night owl.
The corner of 1,000 lines and the corner of 1,000 bumps, the other two names I have for Sunset Bend and the final corner of the racetrack. While you're talking, Joshua Chin cut the gap down by half. It's now a 1/10 of a second to Greg Seitz, who is edging closer and closer. Still got time up his sleeve to get that last bit he needs as we ride on board with Mark Mcdonald. Check the steering and put there, a lot of angle going in through the wheel, which might have actually scrubbed the tyres just a bit. Might have been a bit too aggressive on that turn in. Lap time is a 1:56. That puts him 20th. That was his first validated time of the session.
Yeah, might be still suffering a bit from the cold tires there, and I have no doubt that Mark will be in the top 10 by the time this session is over, even if we only have roughly 6 minutes left, a little bit under. Josh Chin here coming to the back straight and coming to that Le Mans bend, and you can see there is a curb the width of a car, and he still manages to touch the grass just a little bit. Just goes to show you how wide these drivers are taking that corner. And it's an interesting series of corners, the whole Le Mans complex, turns 14, 15 and 16, which we are going to talk more about during the race. But Josh Chin coming over the line, does he improve 154.5 to beat? And he goes 154.2, and that's a provisional pole position, and that is also a bit of a jab to the chin of Greg Seitz.
It is. So, good pace from Chin. Improving over a couple of laps there. Been on the racetrack ever since he went out in the session. Did a 54.9, 54.6, 54.5, 54.2. Hasn't stopped improving yet. Liam Quinn in 7th. He too has improved on every lap, and he'll keep that up as he improves by a 10th and goes to 6th place, or at least stays in 6th. Aaron Ralph's only driver yet to set a lap time in this session. He will start from 23rd if that's the way things remain, but this looks like a lap that should go on the board, although, no, he's pulled off. So he lets someone go and he'll wind up for another attempt.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what Greg Seitz does now. What has he got his sights set onto? He actually, this lap is a fast lap for him. He's right now on the back straight, trying to improve on his times, car number 74, and he's no longer pulling Josh Chin. Instead, he's on different part of the racetrack altogether. So he might just be looking for improvement in these final minutes. Well, he has to be, really, Ryan, because it's all about the pole position. It's all about those extra points. And I suppose when you got a rivalry like this that was heating up and brewing these last couple of weeks, and especially at Montreal, it's also a bit of a mental advantage that you can show that, hey, I am faster than you. and as such, put a little bit of a first punch in before the race even starts.
100%. David Soror then, 4th place right now. The man from Canada had a hometown advantage last week. Doesn't get it this week, unfortunately. What he does get, though, is some slipstream and draft off Nicholas Delp. Just in front of him. Might lose a little bit through here. High speed right and left, 150 Ks through the first bit, and miles per hour. That's about 90, I think. And then onto the straight. This is where he gets the advantage. He tucked out of the draft for a little bit, heading onto the straight there. Got a little bit out of shape, I think, coming out of Le Mans Bend. Now into Sunset Bend. End of the lap for Soror.
And come into the pit lane. So he's not happy with that
10.
one.
They built him up, and he brought it all back down again.
Yeah, indeed. It's a bit of an unfortunate situation. Usually that happens when a broadcast team is doing the track guide from on board somebody. They will inevitably crash at that point. There was a team I was part of in the earlier days that didn't have a preset track guide, and there was always some driver who they would jump on board with, and they would promptly crash halfway through the lap. So yeah, Nathan Lewis doesn't improve there, but he's getting pretty close. Armando Edwards from New Jersey on the back straight, and now you were mentioning home advantage earlier on, Ryan. Well, Josh Chin, he is from Florida, and he mentioned in an interview last week how he likes this track and how this is actually kind of a home track for him too. So, you know, as far as advantages go, it doesn't really get any bigger than that.
Helmet cam on board with Edwards, and that wheel not budging even the slightest down the straight. That lap is not an improvement for him. Greg Seitz has gone up and taken it away from Joshua Chin. The gap is a tenth of a second once again in favor of this man, the defending race winner from out at Montreal. Wasn't the fastest car there though. That was in favor of Chin, who was on the pole, looking to go back-to-back today. But Seitz, as ever, taking the fight right to him. They've got half a second over Declan Eady in third. 7 tenths back to Soror and Green, who are 4th and 5th at the moment.
Yeah, and Josh Chin is not on the track right now, so we are on the... What would you call this? The suspension cam of David Soror. Really, I must say, Dougie Beard with the cameras, he's been mounting them everywhere. I'm just, you know, it's on the helmet, they're on the suspension, they're on top of the roll bar of the drivers. I bet there's one on the rear wing as well. There just has to be, and I wonder when the drivers will start complaining about the added weight on their cars due to all the cameras Dougie's been putting in. All sneaky peek like since last week, but hey, I enjoy this view. You can see just how much the suspension and the chassis is working through the bumpy main straight. Just look at the front wing for reference. You can see it bouncing up and down all the while. And mind you, these cars are doing 240 k's an hour. They're doing like 145, 150 miles an hour down the long straights. They're not going slow at all, and it's all bumpy, so it feels like, honestly, it feels quite terrible probably in the backside of many of these drivers right now.
He just made it to the line to begin one last lap before the checkered flag flew. Everyone that crosses now is recording their final lap of the session. For Armando Edwards, it's not enough to improve. He was 2,000ths away from equaling his previous best attempt. Anything he does now will just be for the heck of it. Mitchell Ian Green in 6th place, 54.838. Not going to get there as he abandons his lap before he even reaches the line. Mark Ponick back in 21st place at the moment. Needs to find quite a bit if he wants to improve anywhere up inside the top 20, but we'll watch him through the final corner as you see how much the car moves about up and down and side to side like a roller coaster through Sunset Bend as he crosses, and he does improve and he goes 20th.
Yeah, and it's gonna be hard to find him in the race with that camouflage livery on his number 34 car. Barn Daly, the next one to cross the line, he's got a 156.378 to beat, and he needs to go sub 56 to improve his position, and he does. He goes 20th, so demotes Ponik from his newly acquired top 20 position by the gap of 18 milliseconds, and we got Soror next. So David coming across the line, 154.8 to beat, and he goes to the pit lane, so does not improve. Alex Guillon, let's see, he does improve just a little bit. However, it was enough to gain him 2 positions, despite the fact that he improved a little over 100 of a second. So very close gaps here at Sebring, as we are used to seeing, really. And well, that's all she wrote for the qualifying. And Ryan, should we go to our starting grid of the race?
Yes, let's take a look at how they line up then. It's so tight in the midfield. On the pole is Greg Sykes, Joshua Chin will start alongside, so that's role reversal from Montreal. Declan Eady and Nathan Lewis on row 2, David Soror and Mitchell Ian Green line up on the 3rd row of the grid. Mark Mcdonald and David Mcdonald make it an all-Mac row 4, and Brendan Wilson and Liam Quinn 9th and 10th.
11th place, Nicholas Delp, alongside him Austin Espedy. Then it's Alex Guillon and Michael Overbay, 13th and 14th. And I must say 13th, 14th, 15th, there's 9 milliseconds between those 3 guys. Alex Guillon, Michael Overbay and Andreas Ike, respectively. Armando Edwards starting 16th. Then it's Lyndon Swaby, 17th. Daniel Frenfus, 18th. Marshall Stanley, 19th. Barn Daly, rounding out your top 20 with Mark Ponik, Andrew Wood and Aaron Ruffs rounding out your 23 driver field. And well, before we go to our race, we must talk about a little bit about the conditions that these drivers will be facing. Tonight's forecast will be bumpy, will be exciting, but how hot it is? Well, we got DJ Clark down there on the pit lane. DJ, well, are you wearing sunblock or do you have an umbrella? What is it?
No, I most certainly have to have a little bit of sunblock on, as we're looking at about a 74-degree Fahrenheit temperature, and I'm sorry for those overseas outside of the U.S., I can't do that Celsius conversion in my head. But what that is going to be for the track temp is going to make
23.
it... Thank you very much, I appreciate that. What it's going to make it is a nice calm and breezy 107 degrees on track. Winds out of the southwest at about 3 miles an hour with 49% humidity, which is actually relatively low for Florida around this time of the year. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And back to you guys in the booth.
That means a 42-degree track temp for, again, those of us part of the 98% of the world that use Celsius for our temperature conversion. So we're at Sebring, which means it's an incredibly long track, sitting at 5.9 kilometers, 3.7 miles, which is weirdly one of the tracks that they decide to start them down on pit road, main straight, sorry, for the rolling start. Normally you'll start halfway around the lap, but Sebring and also Road America for a while had to do the entire lap. Road America was updated recently, and the rolling start is now closer to the end of the lap. But Sebring remains with this incredibly long pace lap for us to talk about anything and everything we want. And let's talk about the pit strategy. Always a big talking point in these races. It's a good opportunity, Aussie, to get yourself in or out of traffic, and some fresh tires on the car if you want, or an addition to your fuel so you can actually get home.
Yeah, I mean, it is always an important point in the races where you have these pit stops. And, you know, I'm gonna put the over-under at 3 in terms of cars that will crash into the pit lane entry, because it's always difficult here at Sebring. You're coming at such a high speed through Sunset Bend, and then you hit all those cones, and then you might hit the pit entry wall. Well, I've never done that, but I've seen numerous drivers do that. Not as bad as Interlagos, however, on that department, but we might have a man who's done some calculations regarding our pit strategy. 65% fuel limited races, 45-minute race, and we'll be seeing around 155 lap times throughout the event. So where is that going to leave us? When do we expect to see drivers come into the pit lane, DJ?
You're going to see guys coming into the pits around lap 10 to 14, or those of you that are looking at the handy-dandy GSRC counter up in the corner, that's going to be with about 26 to 19 minutes to go. I don't know how much tires are going to play into this, believe it or not. These cars, as I've been watching them this week, have been running better and better on a lighter tank of fuel. So I think there is a bit of a chance for an anomaly here to take place. I think somebody can successfully pull off an overcut if they're able to watch their fuel consumption. I've seen guys, as the race has gone along, go on to about lap 15 or so, setting the fastest laps of the race around that point. So there is a very real possibility that we could see an overcut. Back to you guys in the booth.
Well, thank you, DJ. As always, DJ clocked her into pit lane with his calculator in hand and not having an umbrella this time, because sunblock, that is exactly what's needed here at Florida. And something else, well, you might not need a calculator at home to follow this race. In fact, you only need a screen to watch this action. But if you want to follow your favorite driver closely, and if you want to see how they're stacking up in terms of lap times and in terms of race performance against their most bitter rivals or against their friends, be it friend, be it foe, you can see it, and there's a wonderful website where you can see it. And Ryan, I think for our viewers, you have the information at hand.
GSRC.tv, that's where you want to be for all those live timing needs. 23 cars in the field, only one screen to look at battles from, so impossible to see them all, but you can over there at GSRC.tv. As our social media team said on Facebook, hippity hoppity, this is going to be bumpy. And we're about to get underway and see just how wild that is going to make the action today. At iRacing.com, Porsche safety car going to get out of the way. Makes really towers over the Indy Pros, which are as close to the ground as you could possibly get. Little tiny open wheelers, part of the Road to Indy program over in the US. It's truly a stepping stone to IndyCar. And Precision Racing League now have a full Road to Indy calendar going. And now we are going to get this one underway as the green flag comes out from Sebring. The field fans out as we roll down into turn number one. Sights will lead. Declan Eady gets himself up into second ahead of Joshua Chin. They're three wide, just a little bit further behind through the long sweeping first quarter. Can they all keep it on the racetrack? Just about.
Yeah, clearing through the back as well. No incidents that I can see. There's one car that has spun out. No need to go to it. He is Michelin Green, actually, from 6th place. He had spun out in turn number 2. Otherwise, we are pretty clean throughout the first lap of Sebring. No major damage there. A couple of cars taking wide lines. Other than that, we are still racing, Ryan. And, well, look at the gap between the leading group and the second group already on lap number 1.
David Soror is playing defensive right now. He's got Mark Mcdonald, Brendan Wilson all over him. Wilson was having a look through turns 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wasn't quite able to get there. And now McDonald's been able to get by him. And Wilson having to defend from the next car behind, which is David McDonald. He's in the McDonald sandwich. And Soror started 5th, but not had a great opening half a lap. Being passed by no one, but in terms of track time, has lost a lot to those top 3.
Yeah, he has, and it's now a matter of what do the top 3 want to do. Greg Sides, Declan Eady, Josh Chin. Will they play it nice and friendly and try to create a gap to the guys behind, like Nathan Lewis, David Soror, Mark McDonald, and the other guys, or do they want to play naughty? I know Josh Chin and Greg Sides can't wait to get to each other as we are following the midfield battles as well. We got Marshall Stanley actually on screen, and might be some overtakes coming in the pack as well, heading onto the back straight, because Daniel Kranefus is trying to now get a position from Nicholas Delp in the lead of that pack, 3 wide further behind them as well. Guys are trying to find a way into Sunset Bend in all peace and harmony, and that they do. Oh, there was a contact exiting Sunset Bend, however, Liam Green getting a bit of a hit, and Nicholas Delp having to save his car as well, but they are making it surprisingly clean through there. However, one man has a big run, that's Marshall Stanley. We were just talking about him, trying to get through Andreas Ike, which he does as well, so many positions gained for him, getting past Ike, getting past Delp, and getting past SPD as well, all in the space of one straight. And, you know, he didn't even have to wait to the corner, so no need for the hippity hoppity, your corner is now my property place.
Good run from Stanley there. He'd made a mistake coming into the Le Mans curve which is why we picked him up when we did earlier on. But he recovers from that, regroups, and may have actually worked in his favour by the time he got down to turn number 1. Meanwhile, Mcdonald was able to get by Wilson, or rather, was able to fend off Wilson, who had a massive run. And they're at it again as he sweeps around the outside. Good move from Wilson. Take that one away. That's allowing David Soror to actually skip away from these guys and maybe start to try and think about latching onto the back of Nathan Lewis, who's just a second or so behind Joshua Chin.
Yeah, but Mark McDonald hasn't given this up yet either. Trying to get through Brandon Wilson into the Le Mans complex. He's feeling very lazy tonight as they head on to the right-hander that leads to the back straight. So, you know, Mark, Brandon, David, all of those guys might be going at it pretty soon. However, a bit of a gap rising as we should move on to the second place where Josh Chin is trying to overtake.
Corner of 1,000 lines, and on the inside, Chin prevails. Look at the exit that Indy will get as he's able to open the steering up earlier on the outside and put the power down earlier on the main straight. That gives him the run, the momentum, and the spot back down into turn 1. Hard to pass and complete it down at Sunset Bend due to how many lines there are available. But a good exit out of 1 for Chin, and they're going to continue to run wheel to wheel. Now he takes it away. Can he keep it this time? Looks like he has got it sewed up for at least a corner or two.
Yeah, and this is Sebring's nature at its finest, because you have that long back straight, you set up the move to the inside of Sunset Bend or the outside of Sunset Bend indeed. Usually you take it up inside, can you brake late, but you're gonna run wide, nature of the corner, and it's so bumpy that it's so difficult to keep the line tied. And then the guy on the outside, as you just saw Declan Eady do, the guy on the outside will get a better exit. They will get the pass done into turn number 1, but in turn, they're going to leave the other guy, who was the one doing the original passing, onto the outside where they can get a better exit out of turn number 1 and into that tight turn number 2. So you're going to see a lot of side-by-side battles, and that always leaves the aggressor on top in that case, because they're gonna make 2 passes, and so you know the guy's gonna end up in the lead, or they're gonna make 3 passes between the 2 of them, I should say. So that's an odd number, and that's gonna leave the other guy in the lead of the battle. But there's always so many ways that you can attack and so many ways you can defend here as well. There are very few corners which I would advise against taking side by side. So sometimes, Ryan, you have these half lap long 2 wide battles or multi-car battles that just seem to go on forever and ever until there's contact or until the position is settled. So that's why Sebring is one of the best tracks for racing that are out there, as we are following this 3-car train heading through Sunset Bend. That's Soror, Wilson, and McDonald, Ryan.
What about Lyndon Swaby, Liam Quinn, and Andrew Wood? Because just like that, it was 8 tyres, better than 4 down the main straight, and Quinn lost out 2 spots as Wood and Swaby slipstreamed their way by him. And out of Sunset Bend, Quinn isn't able to come back just yet. It's a good move from those two. That's going to drop Quinn down to 20th place.
Yeah, and Liam Quinn, he has a bit of damage on his front wing as well. He got into a bit of a contact earlier on. Just a tiny bit of damage, nothing that should do too much harm for him, but I wonder how well he's able to follow these 2 guys through the winding, sweeping corners here at Sebring. I'm looking at the lap times, by the way, right now, and well, really, the leading guys, the leading trio of folks, they're the pretty much very few guys on the 154s. Josh Chin 154.7, Nathan Lewis 154.6, Greg Sides 55.2, but he's got no draft. So, you know, very few guys that are here on the top position, on the sub 55s at this moment. That seems to be really the limit that's setting the top 8 apart from the rest of the field. By the way, talking about Nathan Lewis, he's promoted himself to P number 3 after Declan Eady made a mistake earlier on. So Declan Eady now all the way down to P number 4, and that also leaves our battle duo Greg Sides and Josh Chin fighting all among themselves, and you can see them here on the back straight. And Ryan, I can't help but wonder how long it takes Josh to, you know, start getting a little bit feisty here with Greg, because we saw what these guys battled through last week. we saw it was a little bit aggressive for many people's likings. We heard Josh's comments after the race, and I wonder, is he gonna play strategic and calm, or does he wanna send a message to the driver of number 74?
On board now with Mark Mcdonald. You can see Soror and Wilson just up in front of him. Soror had plenty of pace as they reached the braking zone for turn 1, but he opted just to sit in behind Wilson and not go for the move. And that might cost him a spot because he's had to compromise his own line a little bit in the wake of Wilson's car. And McDonald's guided a pretty big run through 3, 4, and 5 and through 6 and into turn 7, the hairpin. He'll dive to the inside and take away that spot. So Soror's tumble continues after starting from 5th. Conversely, Wilson is up to 5th from 9th on the grid. So he's up 4 spots early, which is one of the biggest movers so far. Only about 9 minutes into this race, 36 minutes still to go. Nathan Lewis hasn't been able to skip away from Declan Eady. Eady's still right in behind him, just up the road from the battle we were just watching. Here they are.
Yeah, exiting Tower Bend, and Declan Eady was a little bit loose there, but he's finding the draft once again and finding his rhythm after a bit of a shabby lap. So, you know, lap number 5, he's still got plenty of time in his hands, and I think what he should do is try and walk together with Nathan Lewis at this moment in time. These two guys, they both got good pace, they can both walk together, and they know that at some point in this race, Greg Seitz and Josh Chin, they will start battling. Josh Chin will not sell his hide for a low price. He'll not sell his hide for a discount price here. He's gonna want to take the battle to Greg Seitz, even if Greg has extended his lead just a little bit. You can see it on screen. And that's when it's time for Nathan Lewis and Declan Eady to strike. And why not Brandon Wilson and Mark Mcdonald and David Soror? They're not hopelessly out of it just yet. Lap times here. Oh, and Declan Eady trying to go around the outside in turn number 1. Mighty brave move. We're gonna slide wide, take it to the sand, and as a result of that, losing that out. But a nice attempt here from Declan Eady. So much for that, you know, nice and calm, follow each other, fair play.
Yeah, he was very lucky to get away with that, actually, on the outside of turn 1. There's no grip, needless to say, out on the dirt and the grass that exists off the apex of that corner. So he'll rethink his choices and maybe go for a bit more of a safer move next time by. Still a long way to go on this race, and the leaders aren't that far up the road, and if they start fighting, Lewis and Eady should quickly close up to them. 2.4 seconds from Lewis to Chin at the moment. That gap, just an update on that gap at the front. Greg Seitz was able to extend it by half a second last lap after Chin had started to reel him in. But Seitz is responding, and they do seem very evenly matched on pace when it comes to their race pace. Look behind. Slowly catching Lewis and Eady, it looks like, to the naked eye. Wonder if the lap times tell the same tale. Not quite. But definitely in touch.
Yeah, definitely in touch there, and well, many guys right now are in this sort of a waiting phase. And in a race with pit stops, that is one of the things that we have to keep in mind. If you're finding someone with equal pace to you, maybe you do want to save just a little bit of fuel. Mark Mcdonald seemed to be content following Brandon Wilson through the sunset bend at that point, and DJ up on the pit wall. That's one of the strategies that's bound to play out in the longer run, no?
Yeah, it is, and I'm watching these guys' times, trying to figure out who's going to be saving back in that draft down these long straights. As we see guys like Josh Chin on your screen there, is he's sort of backing off, coming into corners a little bit, just trying to save a little bit of that fuel, like we said earlier in the broadcast. I think if they can get to lap 15, that's going to be the absolute maximum fuel window, and that may be what Chin is trying to do. Push Seitz to just go a little bit farther, a little bit harder, and Chin will be able to come in later, take less fuel, spend less time in the pits, and be able to go out and attack on a lighter tank later on.
Incident on the racetrack. That's Lyndon Swaby, I think, looking at delivery on that machine, and let's have a look at the replay. Through turn 1, kept it off the grass there, so incidents happened down at turn 3. Maybe a technical issue is slowing into the corner.
Yeah, he's very slow into the corner, and that's not a slowdown either, so he's just... Yeah, and he just came to a halt. Maybe some sort of technical issue he needed to fix, gets back going, and he almost beached himself over that curb. And wouldn't that be quite something? And well, yeah, his race took a bit of a turn for worse there, Ryan. So a couple of guys out from the picture earlier on, and meanwhile, our leaders pretty much in the same pictures.
Yeah, so I said Sights had responded, but Chin has then responded further, and the gap has evaporated, and Chin is right there with him, carrying some nice momentum down the main straight. Sights feels the need to cover the inside, and Chin's going to look high and wide for turn number 1. Isn't able to get there, but he is right there and looking. Look at the crossover, and the run he gets back. Now he's looking to the outside again. Sights is very wise to the ducks and the weaves. Chin is making behind, is making sure not to leave the door open on the inside for Chin to have a lunge, which could potentially go awry and cause contact, or even a loss of position. Down into the hairpin, this could be an opportunity, but he's too far back. He just lost a car length or two through the first little bit of the sector.
Yeah, and I'm surprised to see Greg Sights defending so much when it comes to the leading position. He wants to stay here in the lead, but we were talking earlier on about fuel saving. Maybe that's not Greg's list of priorities right now. Maybe he's not prioritizing fuel saving. He just wants to lead his race and doesn't want to let Josh Chin through. And it might get actually very difficult for Josh if Greg decides to play defensive here. However, as we talked earlier on, at Sebring, you got so many places for crossovers. You got so many ways you can kind of, fool another driver into playing the defensive and then take the decisive crossover move. You can pass on the inside. You can pass on the outside here. You have a couple of special tricks that some of the guys will know, where they can pass even at rather surprising places. So, Josh Chin, he knows this track like the back of his hand, so he's sure to be wise to those tricks. As we move on briefly to watch the battle for P number 5, 6, and 7, Wilson, Mcdonald, and Soror.
I raise you 1 and take you to a 4-car battle. Daniel Cranefoos, just behind them, has got Stanley, Delp, and Espedy for company down that same straight. So the battles just keep getting bigger the further back you look, and it's great to see the quality right throughout this field as Stanley runs wide, and Delp needs no second invitation to slip up the inside down at Sunset Bend, but again, the outside works pretty well down the straight, or rather it would have if Stanley hadn't rolled out of the throttle and let Delp go. So Delp probably carrying a bit more pace, and Stanley recognizing that as he's also getting held up, and might lose another spot now as Espedy gets to his inside, and just like that, Stanley drops 2.
Yeah, and what played really into Delp's hand here was around the outside. He had to draft as we follow the battle between Wilson, Mcdonald, and Soror here. Wilson and Mcdonald fighting for what is the 5th position here at this event, coming towards Cunningham corner. Mcdonald on the inside, Wilson around the outside trying to defend. Mcdonald here breaking a little bit later, getting the line. However, Wilson gets a better exit and tie the line through there and is able to defend and hold on to his place. Tower corner, not a place for overtaking usually, just a place where you want to avoid the inside curve. Forsman does do so expertly, and as a result of that, the battle will go on towards the back straight. As we come here to the first right-hander of this complex, this is one of the places I was talking about. You can actually cut that corner more than you think. None of the drivers here are doing that, but you can hook your inside tires, your right side tires, to the inside of that curve, and as a result of that, you can brake very late and take a position from a very, very unsuspecting driver in front of you, and that's a tip you can take home, courtesy of GSRC.tv.
Down at turn 13, in that other battle a little bit further behind, there was an interesting little scenario play out where Cranefoos and Delp both ran wide, and that allowed Espedy and Stanley both to get by. So that's an update on that little battle as we continue to watch this one. Down into turn number 1, and Mcdonald remains ahead of Soror. And behind Wilson, hard to know where to look at the moment. There's great battles happening, and the leaders are still reasonably close, but there's half a second between them, so not quite close enough for anything to change right at this moment.
Can I talk to you briefly about the driver by the name of, no need to go to him right now, we watch this back, but I'm just gonna briefly mention off the screen. Driver by the name of Nathan Lewis, the New York driver. He caught the leaders half a second last time by, without any draft whatsoever. So either the leaders are so close that they are actually cumbering each other, or Nathan has more pace than we imagined.
Yeah, Sights might be defending a little bit, costing both himself and Chin a bit of time. There they are on the racetrack. 3/10 between them now, so it's come down by 2. And now make that 3/10 of a second on this lap already. You can see there the lap comparison, how Lewis has been catching. He lost a 10th, lost a second, lost half a 10th, and then gained 3/4, and then half a second. So he is flying. The gap now is just 2.1 seconds between Sights and himself in third.
Yeah, and you don't need a fancy Formula 1 graphic to show you that he's going to be within the striking distance in about 4 laps if this keeps going.
But not far away from the pit window either. 25 minutes left in this race. Oh, that's a mistake! Was that Lewis? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Nathan Lewis has spun and he's hit the fence and he's had to bring us to pit road.
Oh, let's see what happened there. So he's coming into Sunset Bend. Oh yeah, Sunset Bend, the most difficult corner in America, and you're gonna soon see why. So he's gonna take a very late entry, and 10 at the second apex, tighter one of these, just loses it over a bump a little bit, slides. He has it already, and 10 snaps out of him again and takes it almost into the pit wall, and just decides to take it into the pit lane as a result of that. And well, he was a little bit fortunate that I think DJ, he is within the pit window.
Yeah, he's going to be just inside it, but I'm watching him right now, and he's looking at about a 45-second pit stop, and he's still not moving, so I think there may be terminal damage, especially as I look at that right front tire on him.
Yeah, thank you, DJ. And well, Ryan, all I can say to that, terminal damage, better get repairing that airport, eh?
All I'm going to say to that is that's your fault. Completely and undefendably your fault.
Commendator's curse. I have mastered the power.
Sights and Chin, then their battle will resume without the impending threat of someone else making it a 3-way fight. Always amazes me how much the racetrack drivers take as they dip it into turn 16 there. Trying to maximize their run down this, well, I want to call it a back straight, but it's only one corner away from the front straight, so I'm not sure that's a fitting name for it. Is look at the different lines they take. Chin takes a similar line to what Lewis took last lap and almost has the same mistake as he chucked in a bunch of opposite lock, whereas Sights went for a much more shallower entry.
Yeah, differences in lines, and many lines, of course, you can take there. Josh Chin turning in way later onto the first apex and taking much more of the racetrack into that second one. Actually loses his car a little bit, so maybe a little bit too fast. I always found the inside line to be more comfortable there, regardless of the car. I want to take it right to the inside, not over those 2 big bumps that are right on the inside wall, but just outside of them, right to the line in the second apex. And I don't want to take it from too wide, because as you run the risk of carrying a little bit too much speed to the apex, which is a nice idea in theory, but in practice that's just gonna compromise your exit with all those bumps in there. Daniel Craneful speeding from outside of your screens as we watch the 2 leaders battle, and Josh Chin, well, he's looking closer and closer, but I wonder if he's waiting to the pit stops. I'm sure he's waiting to the pit stops right now. I'm sure he could find his way through. He just doesn't want to yet. Again, braking very early into tower.
Ooh, grabs a bit of the dirt and has a little wiggle coming out of tower. So Cranefoos is the first one to make a scheduled pit stop. He pitted from 14th place, or thereabouts, which was quickly becoming a 4, 5, 6 car battle. Chin really opens it up. Looks like he's either got a bit more tyre life or he's using his tyres more at the moment because he's utilising a little bit more of the racetrack. Not only through there, but also up here at Sunset Bend. We'll see if he does the same thing again as they both grab a bit of the grass and, yep, goes for the wider entry, turns it down across the corner and tucks it in to pit lane. Looking for the undercut then.
Yeah, so much for the overcut. And DJ, well, this is a surprising turn of events. Do you think he was losing time, or is this a strategy call? Tires, maybe?
I think at this point this may be a strategy call, that he's just looking at Seitz's pace, and it looked to me like Seitz was just kind of playing cat and mouse with him, to be honest, as we see a whole flurry of people, Edie, Wilson, Soror, and Guyon all joining him on the pits, as well as Austin Aspedy. I think he's going to go in, try to get a little bit of clean air, and just go like hell on this outlap to try to force Greg Seitz. What will be interesting to see is if Seitz stays out for a lap or two longer, tries to pull that overcut. We'll have to see as he comes by next time.
Yeah, thank you, DJ. And another theory I have in mind about that one as well, Ryan, that I want to discuss it with you, is that could it be tire thing? Because he came to the pit lane pretty much after halfway through the race, the lap after halfway through. So maybe he's splitting his tires. Maybe he's thinking that, these tires are not going to last. I want to get some new boots out there right now. And even if he takes it on the chin at the time loss he gets from the first couple of laps with the new Colt tires, he's still going to be feeling more comfortable later on.
Yeah. Only a 20-minute stint to get to the end, so he shouldn't suffer too much. I think that's a good strategy, to be honest. It all depends on what his outright pace is compared to Seitz. Certainly looked like he was being held up, and we'll get a good gauge based off whether Seitz opts to respond immediately and bring his own car, the Rust Racing machine, into pit road on this lap as he comes through Sunset. Normal tight entry for him. Does he keep it glued to the apex? Yes, he does. He's coming to pit road. So Seitz going to respond, and the battle will be on, coming out of the lane as he utilizes every last bit of speed he can. As he slams onto that brake pedal and sends up a cloud of smoke. Mcdonald going to follow him to pit road as well. So too is the other Mcdonald in third.
Yeah, so pretty much pit window open right now, and you can see the times on the screen and the comparison. Pit stop time 7.1 seconds for Josh Chin, 30.5 seconds on the lane, and he is right now in the main straight as Seitz comes out of the pit stop, and Seitz with a lot of faster stops, actually 2 seconds faster, I think. 1 second faster for Greg Seitz. My old eyes failing me, and as a result of that, Greg Seitz managing to extend the lead just a little bit. It's now around 3 seconds.
Yeah, interestingly, those numbers don't quite add up in terms of what he gained in pit lane and where the gap now sits on the racetrack. So not a great outlap for Joshua Chin, or maybe a really good in-lap for Greg Seitz.
Cold tires, mate. So it's, it was Josh Chin being on cold tires, losing a bit of time due to that. And that's going to be now Josh Chin's gain on this lap. I think we'll see it down to around 2 seconds after these next couple of laps, maybe. But Seitz is still actually pulling a good pace. I'm not seeing Josh catching him that much at all. But yeah, he's going to be fast with the light car and with all the tires for that 1 or 2 laps. So, very interesting strategy call from Josh Chin. It could have played out for him. Ultimately, it didn't. Maybe he just needed to pit at this time. Who knows? Maybe he, wasn't comfortable with the fuel going later on. But here we see the battle for 4th place. And we've been talking about this all day long, Ryan. Mark Mcdonald, Brandon Wilson, David Soror. It went on before the pit stops, and it continues after the pit stops. And you would think that, 4th place, who cares about 4th place? Well, these drivers, they seem to care a lot.
Pretty sure they're not taking tyres here at the moment, because Seitz definitely didn't, and Chin's pit stop, was it long enough to take tyres? Don't know if it was.
Yeah, so Wilson went a little bit off the track there, and we're gonna see a replay of that as we were talking about tires. So yeah, and a bit of a hit there as well we're hearing. So here we see a replay. They're coming towards the Le Mans complex and onto Le Mans Bend, and we are watching right now them coming to that last right-hander, and it's gonna be right here. Yeah, he was slowing down a little bit in front, and as a result of that, in the back of that back, it was Brandon Wilson losing a bit of time, I think, over that one, and he lost so much time actually that David Mcdonald got through him and into the 6th place even. So Brandon Wilson, that didn't go well for him at all, and he was just basically slowing down out of reaction of I think it was Mark McDonald slowing down in front of him.
Chin took tyres, Sights didn't. So Chin obviously hoping that the extra rubber can give him the advantage he needs to pass him, because it was an overtake he wasn't able to make when he was on the same quality of tyres that Sights was. The gap is still 3 seconds. It came down for a moment, and he is starting to reel him in, down to 2.8 now. So keep an eye on that over the next 16 minutes as the lap goes on. Sights' tyres will start to wear out more and more, and Chin's will still be relatively good. Watching the battle now between Mark McDonald and David Soror. This is for 4th place at the moment, 15 seconds away from Sights and Chin. It's just absolutely blown away the rest of the competition. Even Indy there in 3rd is 8.7 seconds adrift.
Yeah, so you can see really the difference between the good drivers and the great drivers. This is the Elite Series, so all of them are good drivers. But the difference between good and great, I always say, you know, you can become a good driver in a relatively short time if you just focus on the basics. But becoming great, that takes another level of commitment, another level of practice, another level of, you know, just commitment in 2 senses of the word. Commitment in terms of time and practice and learning the setups and learning the trade, but also commitment when it comes to driving itself. So you always say that a driver is committed, and that means they're taking right from the line to line in the corner. They're not leaving an inch of the racetrack. When they go for the overtake, they really do go for the overtake. So you need that sort of bravery and the commitment in both senses of the word to achieve the greatness. And that's what our leaders are really showing out there today. Greg Sides and Josh Chin, both of them driving great lap times. Dickel Needy as well. He's in a bit of no man's land right now, but he's certainly showing a good race. And and on the screen, that's too far from the wall. That's a terrible accident there. Whoa, that's Armando Edwards splattered in pieces all across the racetrack. His car is a toast. And that started from Brandon Wilson getting loose over the curb at turn number 5, at the exit of turn number 5. That's a deceptive curb, a really high curb. He's going to go a little bit wide over it. You can see it on the screens here, the car in the lead of that back, the black car, and losing it there, the back end getting loose. Armando Edwards going to be a bystander as Wilson is spinning and then just hit the bridge very, very hard. And that's one race car that was turned to dust in an instant. Wow.
Yeah, mammoth hit there, and he was extremely unfortunate. Wilson almost caught it. He had the wiggles going for a while, and then eventually, yeah, major damage to both cars. And next guy through had a face full of debris as he blazed through the broken wreckage of those two machines. Meanwhile, Soror and Mcdonald are still locked in combat. Mcdonald was right there into Sunset Bend, but the differing lines means he actually drops a couple of tenths on that occasion. 13 minutes left in the race, and there's about 3 seconds to the car behind, which is David Mcdonald. In terms of lap times, he is lapping about the same, so if they start to go side by side for a few corners, they will have to watch out for him, because he could be able to close in and catch them both.
Could be, yeah. I mean, that's always a consideration when you think about these battles. You have to pick your battles in a race. You have to think about, okay, am I gonna get through this guy? Or am I gonna be able to defend my position? That's the number one priority. As Mark McDonald is slowing down just a little bit before the entry of the hairpin, decides he doesn't want to go there. But also, you have to look around you and think, okay, do I want to battle just yet? Do I want to get into this battle knowing that we got another driver a couple of seconds behind us? And you think about the gains and losses. Right now, David Soror, Mark McDonald, they're fighting for 4th and 5th. The worst possible scenario for David Soror assuming no accident, is right now a 5th place. He loses the battle, he will end up in 5th. However, if they continue to battle for long, David Mcdonald catches them up. He's suddenly looking at the situation where he's gonna be dropping down to 6th maybe, just in this battle. And that's the thing you have to consider. You want to minimize your risk and maximize your gains. That's true with anything, but especially in racing. And right now, I think both of these drivers are thinking, we want to keep it calm just for a little bit. And what that in actuality means for David as he's leading this. We always talk about, the driver behind waiting before he overtakes. But what that means for the lead guy, for David, is that he's going to drive his normal racing line, and if Mark is going to send it alongside him, then he's going to basically let him do the overtake and set himself into the pole of the other car. And by that way, he can limit his losses.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, but
McDonald's really struggling to make this overtake stick. Definitely looks like he's got the pace. And Soror is just doing enough in the right places to maintain enough of a gap that, say, into here, the hairpin, one of the better opportunities to overtake, McDonald just isn't close enough as they jump onto the brake pedal.
No, and he's at this point he's just gotta think outside of the box a little bit. Okay, if he's attacking, and that's the question here. Is he attacking yet? Because we still got 10.5 minutes left in this race. So is he attacking just yet, or is he still playing possum a little bit? And that means he's just settling on in tow and waiting for his time to shine. Because he's looking very close to Cunningham, through Tower Corner he has there as well. He seems to have a little bit better tire life, judging by how his car is behaving, and he's catching up on these straights. He could attack anytime he chooses. Once again, he's lifting. So he's maybe waiting onto the last lap. And, making sure that by the time he gets through, David will not get back. And another David cannot join the battle either. So he may be playing it smart, but sooner rather than later, he's going to have... And here he comes. Yeah, he was so much faster. And look at David just losing ground immediately. David was already defeated by the time Mark was alongside. And now the question is, can David Soror follow Mark McDonald?
Yeah, well, he rolled off to let him go, sorry. So we'll see if he, maybe he needs to save a bit of fuel. That could be another option too, but he'll probably try to stick with him. Hope he can drag him further up on the track and run away from David McDonald behind.
And meanwhile, up on your second place, we are watching these two guys right now, these two warriors. We were wondering, does the tire gamble, we are expecting, mind you, we are thinking that Josh Chin took tires on his pit stop. And does the tire gamble play out? Well, Chin a little bit sideways there at Cunningham, but before that, he went purple. Fastest lap of the race, 1:54.3. He caught half a second to Greg Sides last time by, and he is right now within the drafting distance. And as a result of that, Ryan, he's soon gonna be within the striking distance as well.
Yeah, and new tires versus old tires, it should be a lot easier than it was in the first stint to actually get alongside and even potentially complete that overtake. And Sites is worried he's going to move it across the racetrack and then dart back again, trying to give Chin as little slipstream as possible, but it's just so hard to completely shake him, and he won't be able to. Chin will lunge a couple of tenths close up on the Sunset Bend, carries much more speed through there on those fresher tyres. Again, Sites moves it over, away from the racing line, but again, Chin follows, and last time by, he was 9/10 of a second quicker.
Yeah, 1:54.0, so another fastest lap of the race. You saw it briefly on the top half of your screen, top right corner of your screen, rather, where it is technically top half, but yeah. And Josh Chin right now right behind Greg, and we still got 7.5 minutes to settle this. Roughly 5 laps, I would say, and right now you can really see the difference here. But Ryan, it's one of those days. It's one of those days where you just kind of hope to see this battle. You want to see this battle both as a commentator and a spectator. But you also have this bit of fear in the back of your mind, knowing what happened last week.
It's all in the past, I think, at this point.
Yeah, that's a very Aussie take on it.
Yeah. Chin probably would have looked at the incidents and thought, well, it's happened. One of the incidents was Sykes, the other one was his teammate. But the one with Sykes was a very unfortunate scenario. So here we go. If he stays this range, you should be close enough down into Sunset to pull the move on the inside or even the outside if Sykes opts to defend that line. Just got to keep the car glued to the back of him through 14, 15, and 16, which he does, and get the exit, which again, he does. So here he comes. Sykes moves it over to the white line on the right-hand side of the racetrack. Joshua Chin, I reckon, is feathering that throttle just a little bit. And he's going to do it to try and deceive Sykes. He went for the late look, and Sykes very quickly shut the door as he rushed into the apex. Now he's got the momentum. Here we go. He tried to squeeze to the inside, but Sykes not letting him through.
And, Josh Chin went at that move in the wrong corner. Okay, he tried it in the Sunset Bend. Fair cop, he tries again to the inside, but here we go. Greg Sykes closing the door very decisively. Chin going to the outside and gonna put it off there. Maybe. Oh, they're side by side still, heading into turn number 5. Chin is gonna have a better exit on the outside, and I reckon it's done now into the hairpin. And he is gonna defend right now. He's not gonna let that inside line go. Greg Sykes gonna be forced to the outside. He can break later there, but can he pull it off? Into the hairpin and then into Cunningham, maybe as they come through the sequence of corners into Fangio. And Greg Sykes, well, he's been demoted to second place, and we have Josh Chin leading this race. So Greg now, he's not the defender anymore. For the first time in this race, he has to attack. And Ryan, well, this is interesting times. This is interesting times indeed. Does he have the pace is the first question. And second, if he does have the pace, what is his plan? We got 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, Sykes was compromised on the inside. He wasn't able to open up the steering due to, Chin being on his outside. And on the older tyres, that meant he was severely slower through the apexes, which meant Chin was just gaining more and more ground through each corner, then eventually down in the hairpin. The corner angle was too great for Sykes to hold it there. Maybe could have looked at going for the crossover move and getting a power done early, but again, I reckon that advantage that Chin got down on pit road is going to be the decider in this one with 4 minutes or so left to go in this race. Looking at 3 laps to go when we cross the line. And from this point, Chin's just got to keep his eyes forward, not worry about Sykes behind, and try to enter the final lap with a bit of a safety buffer.
Yeah, he's got 0.3 of a second as they come to turn number 1. He's got a gap, and you can just see him getting away, both due to the dirty air that Sykes has to navigate, but also his fresher tires, just getting away at turn number 1. These tight corners as well, the exit from here will be crucial. He nails it, and suddenly Sykes is once again 0.7 of a second away. And so we move on to briefly watch the battle for P number 4, which is anything but over yet. Mark Mcdonald, David Soror. We've been watching these two all day long, and these two guys, well, they still haven't found an agreement between each other as to who should take the 4th place points and who should be relegated to 5th.
Going to come down to the last lap, I reckon, between these two, but I don't see any way of these positions changing around before then because just not close enough. And after losing a spot, Soror has never really challenged Mcdonald again. So I reckon Mcdonald might have this one sealed and ready to put on the shelf for a 4th place finish at Sebring. But you can still make a mistake by yourself. It's so easy to do so when you get to the end of the race and you start to think about that jagged flag and your focus starts to slip just a little bit. And these cars, you've got to be hyper aware because they can be incredibly twitchy if you do pick up a little bit of the grass or catch a bump the wrong way. find yourself facing the wrong way very quickly indeed.
Yeah, and I'm watching the guys down at 7th and 8th, and you might be looking at why we're watching these guys, because they got a couple of seconds still between them. Well, Austin Espedy, he's been the model of consistency last couple of laps. On lap 18, he did a 155.3, then he went 55.5, 55.5, and 55.5 on last 3 laps. And ahead of him, you got Alex Guillon, car number 808, and he's gone 56.0, 55.7, 56.0, 55.9. And by quick maths, that means there's been a second gained last couple of laps for Austin Espedy, who goes a little bit sideways, exiting the sunset bend and maybe lose a bit of time there, and yet still another 55.5. Beyond 55.6, so we might be seeing these two guys battle here in the last couple of laps too.
The thing to admire is his second fastest lap in qualifying was a 55.5, and his fastest was a 55.3, which is all but matched just before this streak of consistent laps. So converting that qualifying pace extremely well. And Goyon only attempts Soror on that last lap as they run down to the hairpin. SB will be incentivized as well by seeing that car just off in front of him. Mitchell Stanley, meanwhile, will be getting a little bit dejected as Espedy continues to run away. Up the front, Joshua Chin has extended the gap, and it now sits at a second as they come to begin the final lap of the race.
Yeah, so Greg is falling just a little bit on these last couple of laps after Josh made the overtake. He's been able to extend that gap 0.2 of a second last time by. Greg is not slow by any means. 54.3 last time by. Let's see these lap times. Josh Chin 54.4 and Greg 54.9. So he's been losing a bit more time as they enter the final lap. So it's gonna take a mistake from Josh, I reckon, for the lead to change. So far so good for Mr. Chin on his home track. Ryan, and well, after last week, I know we keep talking about last week. It was a little bit of a storm in a water glass, in a sense that we may have blown it a little bit over. But you know, it was drama still, and this has got to feel good for Josh.
Yeah, most certainly it will do. And in terms of the championship fight, halfway through the season, with the conclusion of today's race, will be a big boost to get one up over Greg Seitz and get himself maybe into the top 5, but he's not there just yet, despite the pace he's got. Seitz will walk away, maintaining the championship lead over Declan Eady, who sits in 3rd at the moment, and a big disparity between them at the end of the race. Over one lap, he might not be that far away, but it really adds up when you do 24 laps to a race. As Chin now coming through the final sector. And a good drive from him, a good decision to take those tyres in pit lane, and would have made that decision probably based off how his first stint went, getting stuck behind Seitz with no way to get by. Just couldn't find the difference. The tyres were the difference. He got by and hasn't looked back. Gap's 1.6 as he runs into Sunset Bend. He can take it a little bit easy through here and not push the limits across the bumps. And that Sim Shop car will come out of the final corner, and the PRL Indy Pro 2000 Series at Sebring going to be taken out by Joshua Chin.
Yeah, great performance for him. Top class, really. Had the patience to wait in the first stint, and Greg Seitz congratulating him as well. And P number 3, that's going to be taken home by Declan Eady, who was there all race long pretty much. Mark Mcdonald, David Soror, and David Mcdonald going to finish 4th, 5th, and 6th. Beyond SPD and Stanley and Overbay going to round out your top 10. Not all of them across the line just yet. Beyond SPD, Stanley still to come. But no close battles here on the final lap of the race. So a pretty surprising Sebring race in that aspect. And I think with that, Ryan, I think we might as well go to the break.
Yep, we will. We'll go to a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. And when we come back, we will have our interviews and results from Sebring. Oh, welcome back to the global SimRacing channel. Joshua Chin is still burning it down on the front straight. In fact, he's just about finished it off now because he has walked away as the victor here at Sebring International Raceway. Your race results then, his margin of victory was 1.5 seconds over Greg Seitz. He gets one up on him over the results last week. Declan Eady comes home in third again. Mark Mcdonald and David Soror, it's fourth and fifth. David Mcdonald comes home in sixth. Alex Goyon and Austin Espedy, seventh and eighth. Espedy wasn't quite able to get there. Marshall Stanley and Michael Overbay finishing ninth and 10th. A good race for Stanley, coming up 10 spots.
Indeed, so Daniel Krenfos as well, coming from 18 to 11. Then it's Andreas Ike finishing 12th. Andrew Wood 13th. Mark Ponick 14th. Mitchell Ian Green 15th. And Nicholas Delp, last driver on the lead lap, finishing 16th ahead of Aaron Ruffs, who was one lap down. And then your list of retirements: Armando Edwards, Brandon Wilson out after that horrifying accident earlier on. Nathan Lewis, Lyndon Swede, Liam Quinn, and Baron Daly as well, classified as D and F of this event. So, with that, Ryan, I believe you are gonna talk to one happy man.
Yeah, thank you, Ozzy. Josh, if that post-race celebration was a gauge of your happiness, I'm sure you are a very happy man then, walking away today.
Yeah, it felt nice. I knew I had a pace advantage and just kind of didn't get in qualifying. I didn't get a draft, and Greg did. So he had pole and controlled the race from there. But I knew there was a pace advantage, and I was surprised that he didn't take tires. So I decided to go off strategy and take tires, and I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that, and we were thinking you couldn't make the move work in the first stint. And I thought potentially you'd opted to take the tires to try and get the advantage you needed to be able to get by, but the plan was not to take them.
The original plan was try and go maybe a lap longer and just use that extra lap to kind of pull it out. But once I kind of saw where the pace was going, I decided to go ahead and take tires, and it worked out really well. Just being able to be on the attack and kind of put him on the back foot for the whole second half of the race.
Do you think that's a strategy that can work at all racetracks, or is it just unique to Sebring today, where if you take tires and the other one doesn't, you're always going to be able to pass them because the advantage you had in that second stint just continued to get bigger and bigger?
I don't know if it'll work at every track. I think, especially in the morning races, like we've had some earlier in the season, you won't see it as much. Montreal, we didn't have that dynamic as much. But any afternoon races, you'll definitely see a lot more of it as the tires get hot. And I don't think the tires were even that worn on the second stint. They were only down to 74 on the rears, but it definitely made an impact having new tires.
It certainly did, and that means you are the race winner, and you can maybe kickstart your championship again and try and climb up inside that top 5 and closer to Seitz. Who do you want to thank for helping you get there today?
Everyone at Team Talent. Liam made a last-minute downforce change that really helped a lot. Kind of preserved the tires going through the second stint. Austin, Lyndon, I'm forgetting names here. Nick, Andrew, all the guys, Andreas, everyone had good pace. The finishes isn't quite reflected for everyone. Liam went out and Lyndon went out early, but the pace was definitely there, and another good showing for us. And Craig Setup Shop, you can get the same setup on the site right now.
Oh, congratulations once again, and go and celebrate that one and get working on next week.
Thank you, guys.
Joshua Chin there, your race winner. A happy man finally gets it done today at Sebring. Next up, Aussie going to have a chat to our third place man, Declan Eady.
Yes, Declan Eady here. Another fine podium finish for you. Well, first stint, you had some good racing going on, but in that second stint, Declan, you were practicing a bit of social distancing there, no?
Yeah, well, I kind of saw the writing on the wall with where the pace was. You know, I was fun battling with Josh for the first little bit there, but once he kind of started pulling out and I started pulling away from the guys behind, it really would just turn into a keep it on the track kind of race. So glad to finish where I did. I mean, I think that's about where the car deserved to be. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a solid and consistent race out there for you today. How were the conditions down there at Sebring? You had plenty of time to, feel the car around. Was it difficult to drive? Any more difficult than usual? Or was it just, your typical race here on the bumpy airport?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if you guys managed to broadcast my little moment that let Nathan by, but yeah, right at the start of the race, the conditions weren't great. Track was pretty hot and slippery, a lot of understeer, so we kind of had to manage that. And then once the tires sort of came alive and balanced out, and then the track got faster, so that's when you started to see Josh and Greg just kind of start pulling away, and that was when I kind of knew that it was really just going to be a question of me keeping it on the track.
Well, in terms of the championship, before we let you go, Declan, it was what you would call a defensive victory, no? I mean, you finished third, didn't have the pace to perhaps match Greg and Josh today, but third place not so bad, and not too many points lost to Greg either. Are you still in the championship hunt in your mind?
Oh, well, I mean, anything can happen. You know, we're only halfway through the championship, so I'm going to put my head down, do as much as I can to try and, I guess, stop the bleeding and make sure Greg doesn't quite run away with it. I'll try and keep it interesting for you guys.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Declan. And before we let you go, anyone you would like to thank?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all the guys that practice with, Brandon and Owen, who's been having PC troubles lately, but getting setups kind of dialed in. And yeah, just helping with racing lines, practicing all that nice stuff. I'd like to thank Abruzzi for our team gear. I'd like to thank Rosso SimRacing and G Performance for our hardware. And I'd like to thank Formula Hypersoft News for getting us some social media presence.
Yeah, well, thank you, Declan, and good luck next week.
Thank you. Thanks for the broadcast, guys.
Yeah, no worries. And Ryan Jones, last but not least, you're going to talk to the man who was looking so good for so long, but then in the end, it turned, well, not so bad quickly, but rather he had to concede for the second place, Ryan.
Yeah, Greg Seitz, good job, second place. It's good for your championship. Sure, you're hoping for more. Pit strategy might have been where it came undone.
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to cover him off because I had a feeling he was going to go without tires, and I wanted to make sure I came out ahead of him. But he made the wise choice and took tires, and I didn't. And you know, as the race went on, it definitely started to show that the car was getting very loose and really hard to keep up my pace. So yeah, it was a gamble and didn't pay off. But on the other hand, you know, at this point, I wanted to play it relatively safe and not get up, have any issues. So I'm actually pretty happy with the result, and congrats to Josh for a great job.
Well, technically you were right. He wasn't going to take tyres, but it's your pit stop earlier that made him decide to take them. So you sold yourself in there. But in terms of championship, he's not quite there yet, challenging, but we're only halfway through. How worried are you about his presence? Obviously, he's been fast for a few weeks now, gets the win today. And Declan is still lurking in third as well. He's very consistent. Going to be a little bit worried.
I mean, you can't let up. Definitely, there's a long way to go, and anything can happen. I know Josh has had some bad luck, in some of his earlier races. So at the moment he's pretty far back. But one or two bad races for me, and I think he would be right back in it. So for me, it's really about staying consistent and getting those top 2 or 3 finishes the rest of the season. My weakness, I'm sure, is going to be the ovals because obviously, disaster is not far away on an oval race.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on another podium. And go get after it next time out.
Yeah, thanks.
So with that, we run out of time right here on the Global Sim Racing channel. There's another broadcast coming up in just a few minutes' time. Make sure you stay tuned for that live on all the Global Sim Racing channel, social media, Facebook and YouTube. I should say thank you to SimMSA for the continued support of this series and the Precision Racing League, who organised this and many other events which are mostly broadcasted by us here on GSRC, which our broadcasts aren't possible without the companies that provide all the software and hardware, such as our music, which is provided by June Lalonde. And you can see the screen how you can get a hold of all of those people. If you want to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to hit subscribe to us on YouTube as well, so you don't miss a moment. Upcoming races listed on your screen. Mark them down in your calendar and go check them out. From myself and from Joe Pete behind the scenes, Aussie alongside me, and DJ Clark in the Pit Reporters booth, thank you for joining us. And until next time, it's race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.